Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna everyone. Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Prabhupada. Okay, we'll start with our prayer from Shrimad Stotra. This is the concluding week, reciting the final set of garlands of flowers of garland of Mukundamala Stotra from 41 to 53. Okay. नारायणाय नम यमुम् एव मन्त्रम् संसारघोरविषनिर्हरणाय नित्यम् शृण्वन्तु भव्यमतयो यतयोऽनुरागात् उच्चैस्तरम् उपदिशाम्यहम् उद्बाहु चित्तं नैव निवर्तते क्षणमपि श्रीकृष्णपादाम्बुजान् निन्दन्तु प्रियबान्धवा गुरुजना गृह्णन्तु मुञ्चन्तु वा दुर्वादं परिघोषयन्तु मनुजा वंशे कलङ्केस्तु वा तादृक्प्रेमधरानुरागमधुना मत्तायमानं तमे कृष्णो रक्षतु नो जगत्त्रयगुरु कृष्णो हि विश्वम्भर कृष्णादेव समुत्थितं जगदिदं कृष्णे लयं गच्छति कृष्णे तिष्ठति विश्वमेतदखिलम् कृष्णस्य दासवयम् कृष्णे नाखिलसद्गतिर्वितरिता कृष्णाय तस्मै नमः हे गोपालक हे कृपाजलनिधे हे सिन्धुकन्यापते हे कंसान्तक हे गजेन्द्रकरुणा पारीण हे माधव हे रामानुज हे जगत्त्रयगुरो हे पुण्डरीकाक्ष माम् हे गोपीजननाथ पालय परम् जानामि न त्वां विना करवरसुता ते तनूयो विरिञ्चिः स्तोता वेदस्तव सुरगणा भृत्यवर्गः प्रसादः मुक्तिर्माया जगदविकलं तावकी देवकी ते माता मित्रं बलरिपुसुतस्तत्त्वदन्यं न जाने प्रणाममीशस्य शिरःफलं विदुस् तदर्चनं पाणिफलं दिवोकशः मनः फलं तद्गुणतत्त्वचिन्तनं वच फलं तद्गुणकीर्तनं बुधा श्रीमन्नामाप्रोच्य नारायणाख्यं केन प्रापुर्वाञ्छितं पापिनोऽपि हानः पूर्वं वाक्प्रवृत्तः तस्मिन् तेन प्राप्तं गर्भवासादिदुःखम् ध्यायन्ति ये विष्णुमनन्तमव्ययम् हृत्पद्ममध्ये सततं व्यवस्थितं समाहितानां सतताभयप्रसदम् ते यान्ति सिद्धिं परमां तु वैष्णवीम् तत्त्वं प्रसीद भगवन् कुरु मय्यनाथे विष्णो कृपं परमकारुणिक खलु त्वम् संसारसागरनिमग्नमनन्तदीनम् उद्धर्तुम् अर्हसि हरे पुरुषोत्तमोऽसि क्षीरसागरतरङ्गशीखर सारतारकितचारुमूर्तये भोगिभोगशयनीय शायिने माधवाय मधुविद्विषे नमः अलमलमलम् एका प्राणिनां पातकानां निरसनविषयेया कृष्ण कृष्णेति वाणी यदि भविति मुकुन्दे भक्तिरानन्दसान्द्रा करतलकलिता सा मोक्षसाम्राज्यलक्ष्मीः यस्य प्रियौ श्रुतिधरौ कविलोकवीरौ मित्रौ द्विजन्मवरपद्मशरौ अभूतम् तेनाम्बुजाक्षचरणाम्बुजसत्पदेन राज्ञा कृतकृतिरियं कुलशेखरेण मुकुन्दमालां पठतां नराणाम् अशेषसौख्यं लभते न कस्वित् समस्तपापक्षयमेत्य देहि प्रयाति विष्णुः परमं पदं तत्। श्री मुकुंदमाला स्तोत्र की जय। शुक्ल शेखर आलवार की जय। शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। Okay, I will read the translations today.
Hare
Raising
Krishna
my
Prabhu, I
arm.
can read the translation.
You can read it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raising my arms, I utter this compassionate advice as loudly as I can. If those in the renounced order want to be delivered from the terrible poisonous condition of material life, they should have the good sense to constantly hear the mantra Om Namo Narayanai. My mind, 42, my mind cannot turn from Sri Krishna's lotus feet even for a moment. So let my dear ones and other relatives criticize me, my superiors accept or reject me as they like. The common people spread evil gossip about me, and my family's reputation be sullied. For a madman like me, it is honor enough to feel this flood of love of Godhead, which brings such sweet emotions of attraction for my Lord. 43. May Krishna, the spiritual master of three worlds, protect us. Continuously bow down to Krishna. Krishna has killed all our enemies. Obeisances to Krishna. From Krishna alone, this world has come into being. I am the servant of Krishna. This entire universe rests within Krishna. O Krishna, please protect me. 44. O young cowherd boy, O ocean of mercy, O husband of Lakshmi, the ocean's daughter, O killer of Kamsa, O merciful benefactor of Gajendra, O Madhava, O younger brother of Rama, O spiritual master of three worlds, O lotus-eyed lord of the gopis, I know no one better than you. Please protect me. 44. Your wife is beautiful daughter of ocean. Your son is Lord Brahma. The Vedas are your Penny I don't know this word. Penigriscient. The demigoddesses comprise your company of servants. The liberation is your benediction. While this entire universe is a display of your magic power, Srimati Devaki is your mother, and Arjuna, the son Indra, is your friend. For these reasons, I have no interest in anyone but you. 46. The wise inhabitants of the heavenly regimes know that the perfection of head is to offer prostrate obeisances to the Supreme Lord. The perfection of the life breath is to worship the Lord. The perfection of mind is to ponder the details of His transcendental qualities. And the perfection of speech is to chant the glories of His qualities. 47. What person, even if most sinful, has ever said aloud the blessed name Narayana and failed to fulfill his desires? But we, alas, never used our power of speech in that way, and so we had to suffer such miseries as living in a womb. 48. The unlimited and infallible Vishnu, who is always present within the lotus of heart, grants fearlessness to those who fix their intelligence upon him. The devotees who meditate on him will reach the supreme perfection of the Vaishnavas. 49. O Supreme Lord, O Vishnu, you are the most compassionate. So now please show me your favor and bestow your mercy upon this helpless soul. O unlimited Lord, kindly uplift this wretch who is drowning in the ocean of material existence. O Lord Hari, you are the personality, supreme personality of Godhead. 50. Obeisances to Lord Madhava, enemy of Madhu demon. His beautiful form lying on the couch of the serpent Ananta is speckled by the shower of spray from the milk ocean's waves. 51. By themselves, the words Krishna, Krishna are sufficient to drive away the sins of all living beings. Anyone who possesses devotion for Lord Mukunda that is densely imbued with ecstasy holds in the palms of his hands the gifts of liberation, worldly influence, and wealth. 52. This work was composed by King Kulashekar, a bee at the lotus feet of lotus-eyed Lord. The king's two beloved friends are the twin stems of exquisite lotus of the Brahmana community, expert Vedic scholars renowned as leaders of the community of poets. 53. Who among those who recite this Mukundamala will not achieve complete happiness? An embodied being who chants these prayers will have all his sinful reactions eradicated and proceed straight to the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu. Hari Bol. Mukundamala Stotra ki jai. King Kulashekar Alwar ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yes, that word, the panegyrist, it means like perfect glorification. So the Vedas glorify the Lord, his name, his form, pastimes, his associates, his abode. Right? So it's a perfect glorification. So without any flaws. So that is what the Vedas are. Okay, so from a perfection of glorification by perfect devotees like King Kulashekar Alvar, I will go to another perfection of devotion demonstrated by another pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so we'll continue chapter 18. Yesterday, Srila Prabhupada started his Bhagavad Gita class at the new place on 2nd Avenue, distributing the matchless gift of devotion at the center called as Matchless Gifts, which have been handed down in the Parampara by our Guru Varga and by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we saw how Srila Prabhupada was starting the Bhagavad Gita class, and then he was emphasizing that anybody who preaches the glories of Bhagavad Gita as it is, as they have received the knowledge without any adulteration and without any material motives, then they are very dear to the Lord, and they achieve all perfection. And it is as simple as that. Anybody can become a spiritual master. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this benediction that his name will be glorified all over the world. So it is our duty to preach this gospel of Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada, these are all people who have come for the first time, but Prabhupada is not afraid to speak the message in pure and bold manner, including Sanskrit, which nobody probably would have understood. But again, because those are the words of the Lord, they have so much potency and power that they can purify our consciousness just by, even if we make an attempt to even utter one word of Bhagavad Gita, not even one shloka, it purifies our consciousness. That is the power. So when Prabhupada is speaking Sanskrit, it is also purifying their consciousness. And we saw how somebody, one drunk man, he came and he helped with the toilet papers and the paper towels. Right? So Prabhupada used, and Prabhupada was just talking about that anybody can use anything they have in the service of the Lord. And here he was trying to offer his service. So Prabhupada was emphasizing that, even that service, little service that he did is glorious. It will help him attain perfection of life. Anybody who chants Hare Krishna one time or hears Hare Krishna or reads Bhagavad Gita, eventually they will gain saintly qualities. So that is the power of the message of the Lord and the words of the Lord. Okay, so we'll continue. So here Prabhupada was kind of stopped midway by one one person he was trying to ask questions in the middle of the lecture, and Prabhupada was telling him to hold on until the end of the lecture. Okay, so after 5 minutes, Prabhupada, all right, this gentleman is impatient. We shall stop here. Now, what is your question, sir? Man. Practically, we tend to place emphasis on those we identify with the fact itself. Many people are meant to explain the why force and the wherefores of the metaphysical truth that I think, therefore I am. Prabhupada, what is your particular question? Man, I have no answer to that question. Rather, but that I attempt, I live, I breathe. Prabhupada, yes. Man, so ability, tell me, why I have nothing to do with it? May I understand the why fors and wheres? Prabhupada, that's all right. Man, I have difficulty in you. I have difficulty in saying. Prabhupada, so long as we are in this material world, there are so many problems. Man, not many problems. It is not many problems. This is the greatest fact I have. I know. Prabhupada, yes. Man, I also know that the whys and wherefores of my particular. Prabhupada, yes. Man, I didn't come here, but let me explain my position. This isn't necessarily, I feel I must. I think the difference is to learn. You will find it innumerable times by the same token. Maybe we are able to reconcile the fact of individual being for a long time to find out why. Prabhupada, turning to one of the boys. Roy, can you answer his question? It is a general question. You can answer. Yes? Roy turns sympathetically to the rambling questioner, and Prabhupada addresses his audience. Enough questions. His voice now seems tired and resigned. Let us have Kirtan. And the Lower East Side once again abates. The chanting begins. The brass cymbals, Prabhupada's voice carrying the melody, and the audience responding. It goes for half an hour and then stops. It is now 9 o'clock. The audience sits before Swamiji while a boy brings him an apple, a small wooden bowl, and a knife. As most of the audience still sits and watches, gauging the after effects of the chanting as though it had been some new drug, the Swami cuts the apple in half, then in fourths, then in eighths, until there are many pieces. He takes one himself and asks one of the boys to pass the bowl around. Swamiji holds back his head and deftly pops a slice of apple into his mouth without touching his fingers to his lips. He chews a bit, ruminating, his lips closed. The members of the congregation munch silently on little pieces of apple. Prabhupada stands, slips into his shoes, and exits through the side door. As Prabhupada retired to his apartment and his guests disappeared through the front door back into the city, Don and Raphael would turn out the lights, lock the front door, and go to sleep on the floor in their blankets. Don and Raphael had needed a place to stay when they heard about the Swami's place. Prabhupada had a policy that any boy who expressed even a little interest in becoming a student could stay in the storefront and make it his home. Of course, Prabhupada would ask them to contribute toward the rent and meals. But if, like Don and Raphael, they had no money, then it was still all right, provided they helped in other ways. Don and Raphael were the first two boys to take advantage of Prabhupada's offer. They were attracted to Swamiji and the chanting, but they weren't serious about his philosophy or the disciplines of devotional life. They had no jobs and no money. Their hair was long and unkempt, and they lived and slept in the same clothes day after day. Prabhupada stipulated that at least while they were on the premises, they could not break his rules: no intoxication, illicit sex, meat eating, or gambling. He knew these two boarders weren't serious students, but he allowed them to stay in hopes that gradually they would become serious. Often, some wayfaring stranger would stop by looking for a place to stay the night, and Don and Raphael would welcome him. An old white bearded Indian turned Christian who was on a walking mission proclaiming the end of the world and whose feet were covered with bandages once slept for a few nights on a wooden bench in the storefront. Some nights, as many as 10 drifters would seek shelter at the storefront, and Don and Raphael would admit them, explaining that the Swami didn't object as long as they got up early. Even drifters whose only interest was a free meal could stay, and after the morning class and breakfast, they would usually drift off again into Maya. Don and Raphael were the Swami's steady boarders, although during the day they also went out, returning only for meals, sleep, and evening chanting. Occasionally they would bathe, and then they would use the Swami's bathroom up in his apartment. Sometimes they would hang out in the storefront during the day, and if someone stopped by asking about the Swami's classes, they would tell the person all they knew, which wasn't much. They admitted that they weren't really into the Swami's philosophy, and they didn't claim to be his followers. If someone persisted in inquiring about the Swami's teachings, Don and Raphael would suggest, "Why don't you go up and talk to him? The Swami lives in the apartment building out back. Why don't you go up and see him?" Prabhupada usually stayed in his apartment. Occasionally, he might look out his window and see, through the back windows of the storefront, that the light in the closet-sized bathroom had needlessly been left burning. Coming down to ask the boys to turn it off and not waste electricity, he might find a few boys lying on the floor, talking or reading. Prabhupada would stand gravely, asking them not to leave the light on, stressing the seriousness of wasting Krishna's energy and money. He would stand dressed in khadi, that coarse hand-loomed cotton woven from hand-spun threads, a cloth that to Americans appears somehow exotic. Even the saffron color of Prabhupada's dhoti and chadar was exotic, produced from the traditional Indian dye. It was a dull, uneven color, different from anything Western. After Prabhupada turned off the light, the boys seemed to have nothing to say and nothing more appropriate to do than look with interest at him for a long, awkward moment, and the Swami would leave without saying anything more. Money was scarce. From his evening meetings, he would usually collect about $5 or $6 in change and bills. Don talked of going up to New England to pick apples and bring back money for the Swami. Raphael said something about some money coming. Prabhupada waited and depended on Krishna. Sometimes he would walk back and forth in the courtyard between the buildings. Seeming mysterious to the neighbors, he would chant on his beads, his hand deep in his bead bag. Mostly he kept to his room, working. As he had said during a lecture when living on the Bowery, "I'm here always working at something, reading or writing. Something, reading or writing, 24 hours." His mission of translating Srimad Bhagavatam, of presenting the complete work in 60 volumes of 400 pages each, would alone occupy all his days and nights. He worked at it whenever possible, sitting at his portable typewriter or translating the Sanskrit into English. He especially worked in the very early hours of the morning, when he would not be interrupted. He would comb through the Sanskrit and Bengali commentaries of the great acharyas, following their explanations, selecting passages from them, adding his own knowledge and realization, and then laboriously weaving it all together and typing out his Bhaktivedanta purports. He had no means or immediate plans for financing the publishing of further volumes, but he continued in the faith that somehow they would be published. He had a broad mission, broader even than translating Srimad Bhagavatam, and so he gave much of his time and energy to meeting visitors. Had his only aim been to write, then there would have been no need to have taken the risk and trouble of coming to America. Now, many people were coming, and an important part of his mission was to talk to them and convince them of Krishna consciousness. His visitors were usually young men who had recently come to live on the Lower East Side. He had no secretary to screen his visitors, nor did he have scheduled visiting hours. Whenever anyone happened by, at any time from early morning to 10 at night, Prabhupada would stop his typing or translating and speak with them. It was an open neighborhood, and many visitors would come by right off the street. Some were serious, but many were not. Some even came intoxicated. Often they came not to inquire submissively, but to challenge. Once a young hippie on an LSD trip found his way upstairs and sat opposite the Swami. "Right now, I am higher than you are," he announced. "I am God." Prabhupada bowed his head slightly, his palms folded. "Please accept my obeisances," he said. Then he asked God to please leave. Others admitted frankly that they were crazy or haunted by ghosts and sought relief from their mental suffering. Lon Solomon: "I was looking for spiritual centers, places where one can go, not like the stores where they ask you to leave, but where you can actually talk to people and try to understand the ultimate truth. I would come to the Swamis knowing it was definitely a spiritual center. There was definitely something there. I was on drugs and disturbed with the notion that I must be God or some very important personality way out of proportion to my actual situation. I was actually in trouble, mentally deranged because of so much suffering, and I would kind of blow in to see him whenever I felt the whim to do so. I didn't make a point of going to his meetings, but a lot of times I would just come. One time I came and spent the night there. I was always welcome at any time to sleep in the storefront. I wanted to show the Swami what a sad case I was, so he should definitely do something for me. He told me to join him and he could solve my problems, but I wasn't ready. I was really into sex and I wanted to know what he meant by illicit sex. What was his definition? He said to me, "This means sex outside of marriage." But I wasn't satisfied with the answer and I asked him for more details. He told me to first consider the answer he had given me and then come back the next day and he would tell me more. Then I showed up with a girl. The Swami came to the door and said, I am very busy. I have my work. I have my translating. I cannot talk with you now. Well, that was the only time he didn't offer me full hospitality and full attention and talk with me as many questions as I had. So I left immediately with the girl. He was correct in his perception that I was simply going to see him just to try to impress the girl. He saw through it right away and he rejected that type of association. But every time I came, I was in trouble and he always helped me. Sometimes young men would come with scholarly pretensions to test the Swami's knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. You have read the Gita? Prabhupada would say. So what is your conclusion? If you claim to know the Gita, then you should know the conclusion that Krishna is presenting. But most people didn't think that there was supposed to be a definite conclusion to the Gita. And even if there was such a conclusion, that didn't mean they were supposed to arrange their life around it. The Gita was a spiritual book, and you didn't have to follow it. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll pause here. Yes, Prabhu and Mataji. Anything from you from today's reading? We see what kind of people were coming, and he was still receiving everybody with love and care, and it's close our doors. If, do not. We say, okay, I'll just sit inside and do my chanting or do whatever reading, and not entertain any of these people. But yeah, this is complete contrast coming from the shores or abode of Vrindavan, from Yamuna, and where everybody is chanting the glories of the Lord. Everybody is saying Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Krishna, Hare Radhe Radhe, and then here everybody is like talking about only wine, women, sex, and gambling, not bathing, being unclean for not just a day but days and maybe months. Right? So if you just think what kind of people he dealt with and how he transformed them eventually just by his purity and the purity of the message of the Lord, it's just incredible. And how he could see through what people were coming in with, right? Again, that is the power that the Lord bestows, and it all comes from within. And again, devotees don't make a big show of it, but pure devotees can see through. You've heard many instances of Prabhupada's disciples recollecting now how when they would sit in front of Srila Prabhupada, they would almost feel as if he could scan them, scan their whole soul, where the whole soul's journey, where they were struggling in the previous life, or wasting their life, and how he would, that kind of feeling they would have, and Prabhupada stared into their eyes. So here, yeah, we see this tiny example of how when this guy came with a girl, Prabhupada knew what his intention was, and yeah, he just didn't entertain him on that particular day. But yeah, that's the potency of a pure devotee of the Lord, that he can reclaim the soul. He can bring them on the path of Krishna consciousness if they are sincere. Yes. Anything else from today's reading?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu's Dandavat Pranam. I was just thinking about the deeper problem which lied between, among all these people who were intoxicated and taking the way of LSD and other things which were not, appropriate. Maybe because they were, as it was, we read today, they had a lot of problems. They were facing a lot of problems, scarcity of money, no jobs, and they don't know the higher way to dealt with it. And when the people have a lot of problems, they just take the help of wine or intoxication to forget their problem for the moment, and that's what the people were doing there that time. just to forget their problem, feel like they are very important, feel like that they are God, or feel like just get away of their problems. They were taking help of all these other things. And then on the other side, we see the people who know the higher thing, who know the higher realization. Whatever problem, even if they're facing, they will not never take the help of intoxication. They would face their problem, even though if it is hard, but never think of using those means to get rid of their problem or forget their problem for moments. So yeah, if we have Krishna in our life, even if we are going through a lot of problems, we will at least be away from the things which will cause more problems, like intoxication and other things. So that is a very good part of being into Krishna consciousness, that we are not making the sins, like which will just create a lot of bad karmas for us in our future lives. So I was just thinking about that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yes.
Hare
And that
Krishna.
comes from the spiritual intelligence that we develop. Yes, Ritesh Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, you said so calmly and so wisely. I mean, we really appreciate Prabhupada. Ji did so much, and he was always so much conscious about Krishna, and the problems that he has faced uh, were not just one, two, three. It was an ongoing thing. He kept going on, whether it was the money, whether it was the people that he was dealing with. But his consciousness was so pure, like he was getting the instructions himself from God on being God part. And the way you uh, explain the whole thing, it's still is commendable. That's all I can say. Prabhuji, thank you so much for reading. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you,
Prabhu. Thank you.
Prabhu. Thank you. We just say so little and you appreciate so much. Thank you for your appreciation and being there. Hare Krishna.
So I was saying that again that it's this is again explained by Srila Prabhupada very nicely in Bhagavad Gita, right? How our senses are very dull, right? Our senses easily get attracted to all these things. Our eyes, our nose, they want to see something good, they always want to smell something good, they want to eat something good, right? So, but we have to control the senses through mind. And again, if the mind is so fickle, so obstinate, or so restless that it can easily take the senses where they want to go, right? But we have to control the mind through the higher um, intelligence, and intelligence gets sharpened when we read the scriptures, when we read our words of the Lord, words of our devotees of the Lord, our acharyas. So that is very, very critical, because unless the intelligence is sharpened, it will not be able to control the restless mind, right? So only when the intelligence is sharpened, then when the mind is controlled, the senses will be controlled. Otherwise, yeah, just like we say, a knife in the hand of a thief or a knife in the hand of a doctor is different, right? Because doctor has a higher intelligence. They know how to use the knife in, even though they may be cutting something, there may be blood coming out, but eventually the goal is to help heal, versus a knife in the hand of a thief is only going to cause chaos, right? Because they don't have the sharpened intelligence. So similarly, yeah, our spiritual knowledge that is coming from the Lord, it is very critical. It burns away, just as like in a forest fire. Even if you have very nice trees, when the forest fire happens, everything gets burnt away. All the sins, all the similarly here we say with the fire of spiritual knowledge, all our sins get burnt away. So yeah, Narad Muni talks about that in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, but yeah, that is why it's very, very important that we should read our scriptures. We should read what our acharyas have mentioned, and when we should apply that into our life. And when we do that, then our life becomes slowly and slowly, gradually, we advance towards the ultimate goal of life, which is to reach the lotus feet of the Lord. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for your thoughts, reflections, and for your association on this Saturday morning. We'll conclude with Vaishnava prayers. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। जगत गुरु शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। शिला प्रभुपाद लीलामृत की जय। निताई गौर हरि हरि बोल। हरे कृष्णा। I'll see you all in the evening today.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.